Good afternoon. We'll call to order the Town of Lake Lure Marine Commission regular meeting Tuesday, June 13th at 4 p.m. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it as always. Are there any additions, edits to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have one edit to the agenda, adding item 4, Lake Advisory Board update, pushing all the remaining agenda items +1.
Right? Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any other changes? Do you hear a motion then to accept the agenda as edited?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as edited.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the agenda stands as edited. Thank you all for coming. As I said, we will now start with our public comment section, which is separate from the hearing. So if anyone has a public comment, I don't have a list of anyone who signed up. Is there anyone who'd like to make a public comment? I do have one that was submitted to Olivia, which I will read to you from someone who could not be here for the meeting. This is from Rose Lenning. Hi, I'd like to express my concern at today's meeting. My concern echoes the March 14th concern of Donald Freeman regarding the 2023 schedule fee for non-residential boaters and fishermen. Fishermen respect their waterways like no other boaters on the water. These are men that pick up trash from the waterways, respect other boaters by decreasing speed when passing a small vessel, and they know that the excessive wakes that are left by the ballast boats destroy the underwater habitats. They also respect fishing limits and practice catch and release to keep the fish populations healthy. The non-residential fee for boaters is $650 with a required boat slip fee of $1,500. This is a total charge of $2,150. Now let's consider that all non-resident and resident boaters' accessibility for 2023 was cut short from January all the way to the end of March when it was back to normal limits according to the town website, Lake Lure is back. Lake Loring will probably reoccur in the fall as it has in the past several years. Assuming this lowering again occurs in October, boaters can responsibly expect to be able to use their pass for 6 months of the year. Meanwhile, the total charge of $2,150 is really only for 6 months and not the whole year, meaning that fishermen are spending $358 per month to use their bass boats. With 27 miles of shoreline, this is a charge of $79 each mile to fish, not including the fishing license. Knowing that the following lake charge less than $100, the fee of $2,150 for a year is astronomical. Additionally, the $1,500 slip fee doesn't buy security or monitoring against vandalism or theft for the moored boats. Annual fees for motorized vessels: Adger, $0. Lake View Park in Asheville, $10 to $100. Moss Lake, Cleveland County, $80. Lake James, $0. Lake Norman, $0. Lake Fontana, $0. Lake Glenville, $0 to $25. In looking at these numbers, it seems that Lake Lure is favoring vacationing boaters over the local consistent patrons. According to Lake Lure's town website, the in-season population is estimated to be around 12,000 individuals. With Lake Lure's actual population of 1,154 individuals, I would assume that the town would want to invite their locals to the lake instead of turning them off due to exorbitant prices to get on the water. Year-round locals provide continual patronage to the surrounding business. Please reconsider the charge to non-residents. Perhaps a compromise would be surrounding counties to the residential fees. Thank you for your consideration. And we thank you, Ms. Lenning, for your comment. And Director Givens, Director of Lake Operations, will respond to you by email after this meeting. But thank you very much for submitting that. Any other comments from anyone who has not signed up? Then we thank you for your attendance and we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is the Lake Advisory Board update. Commissioner Diorio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Lake Advisory Board met this month, continuing to monitor the impact of the lake use regulations as we go forward. And there was some observations in general by the team worth mentioning that has an impact on the overall Marine Commission meeting today. There was a two-pronged approach to help us maintain a safe boating environment in Lake Lure. The lake use regulations were updated, modernized, the 2006 governing study reevaluated, and a concerted effort by our police force and chief back there with Officer Dillon to focus on enforcement of the rules in order to ensure compliance. And the general assessment so far, there'll be a more detailed assessment later on, is that it has a significant impact. Some of the things worth noting, last year it was noted, an estimate, we don't know for sure, but an estimate of about 30% of the boaters on Lake Lure operated without even bothering to get a permit. That is done. For the most part, every boat out there has a permit, and with the police presence out there, Officer Dillon, you and your team, Chief, fantastic job. They are pretty much investigating all boats without a sticker and taking appropriate action accordingly. As a result, I think we're in the low percentages of people that are actually operating without a permit. That was significant, because with that permit comes someone who knows the rules because they went through the permitting process and typically has a boater license. The licensing has been a tremendous success. I have yet to hear from anyone that said that it was a waste of their time to go through the Lake Lure boating, boat permitting process. So that has also been very successful, very well received. There's a complementary instrument that we're gonna have for next year that is just about completed. And Laura, I know you're around the corner, and that is the complimentary video that we have as a refresher every year that'll be posted on the website to refresh yourself on the rules and regulations. And for those just beginning or new to Lake Lure, it's a great quick reference in order to get up to speed fairly quickly. Though that effort is making a significant impact on the way boaters operate on the lake. And from what I've seen and what others have seen from the Lake Advisory Board, adherence to such things as the no wake areas is significantly improved. The safe distance between boats that are wakeboarding and wake surfing and other boats is significantly increased, creating a margin of safety. Haven't seen any speeding boats out there. I haven't. And I don't know, Officer Dillon, if you have seen speeding, but I haven't seen any citations come up for that. So the initial inclination is that no one's really speeding out there. So the bottom line is that we have a much safer environment for people to operate in. As far as congestion goes, clearly from Memorial Day weekend compared to last weekend, the congestion was significantly less than it was last year. That may be due in part a little bit to tourism coming down a bit, but I think it's a combination of that and the licensing and the new restrictions of who and when folks are allowed to operate on the lake, again, creating a safer environment. So the bottom line is Lake Lure is safer today than it was a year ago, and we will continue to assess it to see if there's some fine tuning that we, like for fishermen that we just noted, that we may be able to do for next year. Just from the law enforcement side, and these numbers came from the police department. They've been on, this was of last week, so it's probably gone up a little bit, but they've spent about 100 hours patrolling the lake. That's significant. They've done 275 permit checks, 32 safety checks, 153 encounters with vessels that may have been not properly operating their vessels. That is a significant number compared to past years, and it's making a great impact. Thank you. We support you, and keep moving forward. That concludes my report.
What we were talking about, how old you have to be to drive a boat. Will you just remind everybody what that is?
Yeah, so there was one question that just came up earlier about how old do you have to be to operate a boat, a motorized vessel in North Carolina. And the rule is that you can operate a boat as young as 14 if you're accompanied by someone greater than 18 years old. If you have a driver's license greater than 16 years old, you can do it on your own. So that's something that's not in. We may want to take a look to see if we want to add that to the lake use regulations, but it's a North Carolina statute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That question just comes up, as the summer comes, all my grandsons come who are 12 and think they're 20, you know.
Yeah, and there's a 1988 permit thing too.
Oh, yes, also in North Carolina, thank you,
You're
Commissioner Bryant. So there's been some confusion about boat licensing. There's a North Carolina boat licensing requirement, and there's a Lake Lure requirement. The Lake Lure requirement is for, specifically for anyone who operates a motorized vessel on Lake Lure. North Carolina has a requirement to get a North Carolina boating license if you were born in the year 1988 or after, which makes you 36, 35?
35.
Yeah. Shouldn't do math in public. 35 years old or younger, you have to take the North Carolina boating.
Yeah, I think it's called NASBLA.
Yeah.
NASBLA.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, just, I think a good thing for everybody to know before their grandchildren hit their houses in the lake this summer, and that's kind of a little vague thing, we probably should put that in there.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that, you know, the whole, from everyone here in town, thank you to our lake operations, wonderful people, and to our police force for enforcing these regulations, because we know that it is, you know, there is no point in having regulations unless they're enforced. And that's not always easy to do, and they have really been, even my group, who are fishermen, and so they're out there at dark 30 in the morning, okay, are seeing police officers out there on the lake, which is a good thing. So we appreciate it very much. We know it's not always an easy thing to do, but it's what makes what gives some backbone to these regulations, so we appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on. By the way, the LAB update is gonna be a standing item on the agenda from now on, because really a lot of what the LAB does is really more germane to the Marine Commission than it is even to the town council, so we'll always have that on here from now on. We'll move on then to the next item, which is the consent agenda. And the only item on the consent agenda is approval of the March 14th, 2023 regular Marine Commission meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda, including the approval of the March 14th regular Marine Commission meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the consent agenda is approved. The next item is unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. So we'll move on to the next item, which is our hearing. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we go into public hearing?
We don't need
We
to.
don't need to do that? I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We'll just go ahead and start with the first item under hearing. It's request to appeal civil citation number 000321. Is there anyone here? Then we will,
Mr. Hinkle?
Dean, would you just like to, we'll just go ahead and you just stand up
Yeah,
here and
we'll
we'll
go
go through them one by one with you.
Thank you.
On the citation in question at this point, I've reviewed it. Only thing I see that's different is the citation was explained to be a $250 citation. It was a non-motorized craft, which would be a $225 citation, so we'd need to correct that. And basically, it was a non-motorized, a paddleboard that was being operated on the lake without a 2023 permit.
Okay.
Sergeant Umflett was the issuing officer from Lakewood Police Department.
Any discussion?
No one's here to
No,
represent.
they are not.
Madam Mayor, I move that we deny the appeal for citation number 000321.
I'll make a second on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the appeal is denied. We'll move on then to the next appeal. For Mr. John
Mr.
Davis.
Davis?
Mhm.
Mr. Davis or anyone present? Okay, go ahead, Dean.
Okay. This citation was issued also by Sergeant Carl Umflett. This was a non-motorized vessel that actually had a trolling motor on it, which in the state of North Carolina makes it a motorized vessel and is required to have state registration numbers. So, when Mr. Rufflet stopped them, they did not have a 2023 Lake Lure license. And since it is a motorized boat, nor did they have, the license issued by the town of Lake Lure. So they did not have a permit, nor did they have license. So those are, each of those violations are $250 per.
So the total of that was,
$500.
Each. for
Each.
two.
So,
What do you wanna do? You
Okay,
wanna-
you're doing
why don't
them-
we- why don't
Are
we
we
do
doing them together?
Yeah, do them together.
okay, the other one
Yeah.
is Pam Davis, and the same scenario applies. They are a couple that are together, and she also had a kayak with a non-motorized, with a motor on it with no permit and no Lake Lure license. So Sergeant Upfoot also issued that vessel 2 citations of $250 each for a total of $500.
each.
Yes, so you've got, so what the total is we've got 2 vessels, $500 for each vessel in funds.
Yep.
Any discussion?
So I have a discussion point with this one, so, little bit of a gray area with this one. When someone doesn't understand that a trolling motor and a kayak together is a motorized vessel, that in itself would cause them not to get a license for a motorized vessel if they don't think it's a motorized vessel. One thing, I think that we may end up going back to the LAB is clarifying this point, because every state's different. As Dean correctly pointed out, in North Carolina, if you got a trolling motor, it's a motorized vessel. But to someone, a casual observer, that may be a little gray area, maybe something that we clarify in the regs. But I see those two fines being linked to each other. If you don't think you're a motorized vessel, then you're not gonna get the license
For either one.
for either one. So because of the gray area, the point of clarification, although the chief, you and your team, absolutely right for giving the citation. It was spot on, it's accurate, the data's accurate, everything well done. I see it as a little bit of a gray area of double jeopardy, and I propose that we reduce each, the 2 distinct $500 combined fines, reduce each one to $250 each one, which reduces the overall fine by 50% for both of those.
So a question for you then, and I don't disagree with you, that is a little bit of gray. In our regs, obviously, North Carolina law says very clearly, and so everyone that owns a boat should be following those regulations, no matter where they go. I can see that being a little gray when you come here, maybe they're not thinking about that. Are they from North Carolina?
Pine Bluff, North Carolina.
I'm sorry?
Pine Bluff,
Bluff.
North Carolina, as
So,
listed on their
You know, I don't
letter.
know how they do what they do, but I do think maybe, and you guys, LAB, maybe that's something that we can write in,
Yeah.
right? Just to be very clear about that. And you're right, Chief, yep, you guys wrote what you saw, which is what you're supposed to be doing. But I kind of agree with Dave on this one. I think I don't mind doing that, because it is a little bit of a double jeopardy on that situation, and a little gray.
Yeah.
I would agree, yeah. And they paid in due diligence already on this fine.
Yeah.
But I would agree to reduce both by $250. But the additional $30 processing fee does need to stand, that they paid too.
Yeah, okay.
So that would still stand, but I would be in agreement with your suggestion.
Reduce the actual
Mhm.
fine.
I just think
Reduce the
we do have to be careful here, because, you know, they could have 5 boats.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and North Carolina law is North Carolina law.
I think all these things as we go along that we see need to be clarified. We need to put them in the regulations, but maybe we need to also add them somewhere, like, these are clarifications that people, like as an example, how old you have to be to drive the boat. I mean, everybody should know that, it's in the North Carolina regs, but it seems to come up and up and up, same thing with this.
I would, with the town manager's permission, I would ask that we, take a synopsis of this, crafted by Parks and Rec, and just put out a quick note following this thing,
Okay.
some of these points.
Right.
And just remember that if you have a kayak with a trolling motor on it, you're a motorized, or any watercraft with a motor on it is considered a motorized vessel. If we
I
could
would
do that.
consider everyone else is in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and we could just put it on the website, honestly.
Yes, ma'am.
And we don't allow those, the standing wakeboard, standing surfboard things. with the-
Paddleboard?
The motors on them either, anyway, that's already part of the regulation.
Yeah, a personal watercraft with motorized personal watercraft is specifically prohibited.
Yeah.
So that's covered.
Right.
Yep,
Covered that.
correct.
All right.
So there's
Any
a,
questions?
I made a motion to reduce it by 50%, and we need to go from there.
Is there a second?
Did you have something to say?
Yes, I just had a question to clarify the point. I think it's a good point that it might not be apparent to all people that this is a motorized vehicle situation.
What's your name?
My name's Andy Knowles. I'm a resident. Part-time. And so, just to, not to be smart or anything, but, my wife and I, in the last summer,
So if you had a question, I thought you were relevant to this case in the question.
it is,
So is that something that's public comment that we should have talked about, or?
perhaps I'm out of order.
Okay.
But the comment is that we had floats last summer with electric motors on each arm. And so to clarify the point, I think it's good to be clear and communicate to all the residents what is a motorized vehicle and what's not.
It is, and I think some
Thank you.
things that
Yeah, thank
seem clear when we first put in the regulations, because obviously if you craft the regulations, they're just crystal clear to you, right? Because you know the intent and all the ramifications. But I think we'll find as we go along, these little things that we need to clarify, because that is the intent of the regulations, is to make sure everyone knows what is allowed and what is not. So
There are
thank you for
There are
bringing
a lot
that
of
up.
people that come on the lake who say, I don't need a boater's permit because I have a North Carolina, or I have the
Right.
US boat permit.
Right.
That's all great, but you still have to have our boater safety course. That's what, it's separate, so I think,
All right.
yeah.
Who
I'll,
seconded it? Or you
I'll second
All right. and
Commissioner Diorio's
all in favor?
motion.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then that motion passes unanimously.
Sure.
And we will move on to the next citation, Dean, which I believe is Mr. Patrick Jones. Is Mr. Jones here? I don't believe anyone's here, actually. All right, you can catch us up on it then.
Okay, this one here, if I'm thinking of the same one, I was kind of briefly reading the notes. The subject came into the Parks Rec and Lake Department to get a permit, did not have the correct paperwork that was needed in which to obtain the permit. A couple days later, somebody was, not him, but somebody he knows, a child or uncle or something, was on that boat on the lake without a permit, utilizing that boat.
So, let's be clear here that you got the right guy. This is, my son received 2 tickets this past week for no boat permit, and the second for not taking the boater's test.
Right.
We keep our boat at Lake Lure Marine. The boat was dropped off at the dock, unfortunately, holiday weekend, blah, blah, blah. They drove the boat to our house, and that's the last time, is that where it was, or was it out on the lake for the whole weekend?
I don't know, I just know that a Lake Lure police officer is the one that stopped the boat and wrote the boat the tickets.
Yeah, I think they were in the main channel transporting it from the town dock on the H wing to the boathouse. So that boat should have never been on the water without a permit.
Agreed.
And the thing that's so interesting about that one, Lake Lure Marine has been, not only put out 6 notices saying don't do that, and they're the ones that dropped it off, but they were more than due diligent in telling people you gotta have a permit before you operate the boat. So I don't know how they missed that, but they did. And then the secondary impact of not having the boater's license. I move that we deny the appeal number 00323.
Is there a second or any more discussion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then that appeal is denied. We will move on then to the next request to appeal civil citation number 001226. Miss Joselle Allen, Miss Allen, are you here? Dean, can you summarize that for us?
This one here, I've not gotten any information on. This was written by a reserve officer for the town. And, it's just basically they were operating a boat without a valid permit on the boat. Doesn't say anything about whether they have a boater's license or anything of that
Yeah,
nature.
so it's operating without a permit,
Right.
and no one's here to represent the individual?
No.
And there's no letter that's been submitted? I move that we deny the appeal number 001226.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then that appeal is denied. Our next request to appeal civil citation number 001251. This is Mr. Andy Knowles, and you are here.
He's
So
here,
if you would like to come up to the podium.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today about our situation. I have owned this pontoon boat that in question that was subject to the violation for 10 years. We've had a house here on Neighborly Drive for 10 years. We've always had the pontoon. The pontoon has been on the lake prior to us. We bought it from the prior owners. So I think, you know, my main concern is that there was a procedural change in how you register boats this year. In fact, I think it began last year where we noticed that you had to provide more paperwork than we had in the past. And so, and at that time, we were told that the records had been lost, and we had to produce new records as to insurance and other information about the boat, even though it had been here before. This year, we went twice on 2 occasions before my son received this ticket in question, and tried to get the boat registered, but were unable to because we didn't have documentation to support it. First time, we didn't have a printout copy, and we were told a hard copy was required, though we don't have a printer here at the lake. And the second time, we were told that we needed to have, you know, additional information about the horsepower and the length of the boat, specifications of the boat that we didn't have. And so, then on May 9th, he came out, you know, we hadn't really had a chance to put the boat in the water. He was here with a friend. They went to Larkins and drove it home. And as they were leaving Larkins, they went to pick up a buoy or something that was in the lake and received a ticket right after that. So my request is perhaps twofold. One is, can the procedures be improved so that we don't have to come up with new documentation every year for every boat? I can see how we could confirm that the insurance is current, but the boats are the boats. If they've been here before, hopefully we can keep good records of that. And the second is if you can give us some relief under the fine for this ticket.
Thank you, and I think everybody was pretty much in the same spot with the information not being able to be transferred from the old system to the new system, so we were all scurrying to find our paper documentation, so we appreciate that point. Anything?
So I would like to, Andy, and you make a good point about the paperwork. It was burdensome. First of all, it was a new system. We have a new system, and you won't have to do it every year. It's in the
Okay.
system. All right, so that's a good point. But I think we owe you an explanation of why the process changed the way it did, just so you have an understanding. So unfortunately, and this isn't about, you know, Andy Knowles and the great family that we have at the end of Neighborly Drive, my drive. It was not aimed at targeting you in any way. What we were targeting are a number of folks, unfortunately, who have been side-skirting the processes and providing, frankly, false information on their registrations. They either report their boat specifications to meet the Lake Lure requirements incorrectly to the state of North Carolina, or they fill out the application, the Lake Lure application incorrectly. There were a number of boats that were illegally or out of specification, operated on Lake Lure, and it wasn't until we actually had to put eyes on each one of the specification sheets to really validate that, and we found a number of people that were out of compliance. That was the reason for the process change, and you only have to do it once. But the thing that gets me with this is, and I would like your insight on this. Granted, it was burdensome for you to go through the process, it had to be done for good reasons. Why did the boat get operated regardless without a permit?
Maybe he didn't realize it was his first time up this summer, but perhaps he just thought he could get away with it, I'm not sure.
Okay. See, that's kind of a separate issue, though. I mean, I think you're spot on with the process. We ought to, it ought to be a one-time deal. The system is up and running, doing great, and all that information will be captured. Just validating insurance next year, right, for the most part? Yeah, the updated, North Carolina registration.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But I understand, the reason, the
Yeah.
safety reasons are very important. and
Yeah.
We need to be clear that everybody's safe and operating boats on the lake. So if I can understand that too, and I appreciate everybody's efforts to make sure that that's happening.
Yeah, that effort is making for a safer lake, clearly, but we still have the issue of, despite all that, the boat got operated without a permit, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other discussion on this?
Madam Mayor,
Okay. Do I hear a motion then?
I make a motion to deny civil citation 001251.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then that appeal is denied. We'll move on then to request to appeal civil citation number 000250. Is Mr. Greg Turner here? If you would like to step up to the microphone, Mr. Turner. And if you would mind, just state your name. We clearly know that, but just for the record, and also your address.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Greg Turner. My address is 746 Chimney Rock Road, Robertson. Is that all you need?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a lifelong Rutherford County resident, except for a handful of years that I was gone away to college and working. And I grew up on Lake Lure. Since I was 6 years old, I just think it's important that you kind of know who I am and where I'm coming from as I explain what happened here. Like I said, I've been on this lake since I was 6 years old. I think I'm a very responsible boater. I clean up a lot of trash around the lake. I help a lot of boaters. I've towed a lot of people in that were under duress. I feel like I'm a very responsible person, and I'm a rule follower, and I appreciate the law enforcement here and the job they do. I don't have any issues with that. On April the 21st, I purchased a Lake Lure permit for what was my current boat that was on the lake the prior year as well. I purchased that from Corby Bradley, and at the time, I was looking at a new boat, and I asked her what would happen if I bought a new boat. I just wanted to make sure I secured a permit. And I said, well, what if I get a new boat? She said, well, we can transfer it to the new boat. So I finished the permitting process, and then as we began the pre-purchase of the new boat, part of what I needed to do was verify that all the systems were operational in the boat, because the seller was gonna be on the hook for all that stuff. I wanted to confirm there were no leaks, things like that. I brought the boat up here, the new boat, and was just gonna put it in the water to check for leaks, and an officer was there and said, you can't, if you leave the boat in the water, then I'm gonna write you a ticket without the permit stuck on the boat. I had the permits that I had bought, they weren't transferred to the new boat yet. I had my boater's license, I had my state registration, I had my insurance, I had everything in order, and he said, if you don't put the stickers on the boat, I'm gonna write you a ticket. So in a panic, I made a mistake. I put the stickers on the boat so that I could go out for about an hour and see if the boat had any leaks. There was a leak. I pulled the boat out after an hour or so and parked it, took it home. Put on my top priority list to get that transfer done after several weeks went by and the boat was actually purchased. I got very busy at work with my wife and kids, and just tried to get up here during the week. With the job that I have is difficult, and I made a mistake and didn't get up here and get it transferred to the new boat like I was supposed to. And, 18 business days, I think, passed from when I originally put the boat in the water until I got this citation for not having the permit properly transferred to the new boat. And so what I'm requesting is consideration of reduction of this fine, just because it is the Class D offense, which carries the highest penalty, the same as operating a boat recklessly, that takes another human life. So I feel like this is a bit egregious just for something that I wasn't purposely trying to manipulate the system. I bought a permit. I wasn't trying to dodge the system in any way. I was just slack in getting up here and getting it done. And I admit to that. I made a mistake. And for that mistake, I'd like to ask for some forgiveness.
Thank you very much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
sharing that with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I have some questions. Okay, Greg, so I'm a little concerned here. This boat that you want to register, it's not a legal boat on Lake Lure, right? You realize that,
No, I don't agree with that.
okay? And why is that?
Because the state of North Carolina deems it a pontoon boat. It's 23 feet.
Let's talk about that. So how does North Carolina consider it a pontoon boat? I saw this document here that says that the vessel type was updated to a pontoon. The thing is, Greg, that's a deck boat, okay? It's not a pontoon boat. So how does North Carolina know that it's a pontoon? Did you tell them it was a pontoon?
No, well, the state of North Carolina certainly wouldn't come to
They
me
would,
for-
because you
for
put that,
direction.
you put that on the title application, you check the block of what kind of vessel it is.
Yeah.
And that's how they determine it.
When the registration originally came back from the state, it had open,
Yeah.
and there's no definition on there what that means.
Mhm.
So I called the North Carolina Wildlife and I
Uh-huh.
said, what does open mean? Is that open hull, open top, meaning it's not a cabin cruiser? I don't know what that means.
Mhm.
And she said, well, I'll tell you how that got there. And it carried forward from the original owner. She said, for some reason, it was registered that way from the original owner. And we carried that forward, and that's how it's on there. She said, let me do some research and figure out what this is. She put me on hold for 20, 30 minutes, went to the manufacturer's website, looked at manufacturing codes, and did her research and said, yes, it's a pontoon.
But it's not. It is not a pontoon. Specifically, the reason why we don't allow those deck boats of that size is that hull shape creates a lot of energy in the water, does a lot of damage, particularly at higher horsepowers and at the length that you have it. Greg, that's a deck boat. There are no pontoons on that boat.
Yeah, here's one way that I can easily differentiate a pontoon from a deck boat. A pontoon, you can swim up under and get in between the pontoons and get out of the rain with the underwater lights and swim in between the pontoons. And on my boat, you can do that. On a deck boat, you can't. The deck boat hull comes all the way up to the bow of the boat and meets the deck. You can't swim under a deck boat. You can swim under a pontoon boat and get in between the pontoons. This is just a modified
So I guess
pontoon. It's just, it is different.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm looking at these, are these specs from the manufacturer, Dean?
I have no idea.
Is that,
This side is from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
this is from the manufacturer, the Razor, the Ultimate Deck Boat Experience. I'm gonna assume that this is a sales slip from an ad, because it says it's inactive, so, and this category and types it as a powered deck boat. So,
On the very back of the packet that I gave you, it's got the definitions of pontoon from
Dean, why don't you come up and?
Why don't you come up to the,
Yeah.
just so everyone
Yeah,
can
there
hear
you
what you're saying, thank you so much. If you wanna just add some information that everybody can hear.
Yeah, and can I give you guys something while he's talking?
Sure,
Gotcha.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
That's from Boat Trader, as far as how they classify it. And this is the Canadian manufacturer website that, says it's a pontoon boat. And, how somebody decides they wanna market it, what they wanna call it, different websites can do different things for sure.
the one that I was just referring to is from the manufacturer's website, correct? Maybe they have changed their marketing? Maybe they changed,
Yeah,
But I
deck
think-
boat is kind of a hot term, I guess, nobody wants to.
so I think we'll let you, Dean, you got,
Can Paul speak real quick?
Yeah, I need,
If you're gonna speak, you need to
I
come
would
up, if
like
you don't
to.
mind,
Thank
just,
you. I
just state your
appreciate
name,
it.
just so we have it for Olivia.
so just a couple things. Greg called me about this, yes, and thank you for, letting us come up here and explain this. I did call, Commissioner DiOrio yesterday and say, how does this process work?
Right.
And told him that I may come down with him, but let me say, first of all, I've known Greg for a long time. I know his daughters, I know his wife Brooke, who's also a native. These guys are, now, I've been out on the boat with them, they've been on our boat. These are some of the most responsible boat owners that I've ever seen, and also upstanding, honest individual. He has an aviation company. He's been in this community for years. He's a big proponent of Lake Lure. So when he called to tell me about this situation, I said, man, of all the outlaws I'm gonna be associated with, I'm okay being associated with you on this one. But the truth of the matter is, I'll speak to one thing first. I think that this malicious manipulation, and I had a hard time finding it in the regulations, other than where it speaks to it as a fine. But I think it implies some intent to, get on here with a boat that you're not supposed to do it and knowing what you're doing. I think from what Greg just told you guys, he was trying to comply with, he had bought his permit not knowing what boat he would buy. And he had had that conversation, I think, with Corby Bradley, and she said, yeah, we'll switch it. When he went back and found out he had this citation, which was, I think, yesterday, right? Yesterday, was when he went to switch the registration open. And at that point, he was presented with, 25 pictures and things like that, and, I was like, wow. And I can just tell you, when he called me, he was shocked. And he said, I don't know what the deal is, and I guess in talking to, Dean here, he said, not only that, your boat's illegal. So when I called Mr. DiOrio, and he said, hey, there's a little more to this boat is a problem. I called Greg back and I said, did you change the type of boat, the classification, he said, I asked him what open meant, and I said, I thought it was, my view has always been it's a pontoon boat. It's got two big pontoons that run on either side of it. I thought it was a really nice, pretty fancy pontoon boat, but I think there's a, if I'm not mistaken, the difference is there's a connector
Back in the rear.
for more maneuverability, so a little bit less of a, your traditional pontoon boat. I will say what I just heard about how it's marketed or whatever, I mean, party boat, whatever they wanna call it, I don't think Greg had the ability to tell North Carolina, this is a pontoon boat, and I don't think he did. But to the first issue, Class D citation, if I'm looking at it correctly, not only does have, as a matter of fact, he offered to pay off the fine there so they could get to the issue of whether the boat was illegal or not. Problem being there that he said, oh, that's $1,500. Well, that's when he called me. So I think the intent, now maybe this is a Class C, maybe it's a Class A. I didn't look at every single one of those fines, but I don't think the intent to manipulate the system was there. I don't believe that in any circumstance. The second thing is getting back to the boat. I tried to find a definition of a pontoon boat. Is a pontoon boat in the Lake Lure regs? Is there a pontoon boat? Is it one? I mean, there's a lot of things that say what you can't have. You can't have this size pontoon boat, this engine pontoon boat. There's no definition of a pontoon boat in these regulations that I saw. Now, if you want to,
It's not specifically in our regulations.
So it's
But
not.
that is the definition of a pontoon according to Webster's dictionary.
So a flat-bottomed or hollow metal cylinder used with others to support a temporary bridge. Okay, that's what that
So
boat is.
I guess I have a question for you here. So you had a boat in the water
Yes,
that you were testing. You had a permit in your hand
right.
for another boat. What was that other boat? This pontoon boat?
No, it was my,
This deck boat?
what we call, no, it was a V-hull.
Okay, so you had gotten a permit for a V-hull boat that you had in your hand, basically. You were on a boat, was that this boat that you were on, that you received the permit, that you stuck the numbers on?
Yes, sir.
So you stuck the numbers for a V-hull boat, another boat, on this boat,
Right.
to not get a ticket, right? Which may or may not, should have gotten the ticket anyway, because that was not the boat that you permitted.
Probably in hindsight, should have taken that ticket.
Should have gotten a ticket for
Yeah.
that, but that, it didn't happen. So you got out of you pulled the boat out of the water, then you left. You didn't do anything for 18 days, basically, is what you're saying. And you took the permit off of that boat that you were testing. How did you put the permit on that boat? Did you just lay it on there and the officer was good with that? Or did you stick it to that boat?
No, I stuck it right in front of the officer.
Okay, and that was a V-hull boat that you put on this deck boat, right?
Right.
Okay, and then you took it out of the water, left it on there, then you went back and said what?
It said that I wanted to transfer my
V-hull,
permit that I'd purchased and told you that I was gonna transfer another boat to this boat, and that's when I found out that I had the citation for having the wrong permit on the boat.
how did you get that permit? When did you get that citation? Where did that happen?
8th of June
Where did that happen? Like,
at the dam marina.
so the boat was in the water over there?
Yes.
And somebody rode by and saw it
Yes.
and ticketed it? Okay, and that was the wrong permit on the wrong boat?
Again, the stickers were not on the boat until the officer said they have
I
to be on
understand,
the boat.
but he still, you had the wrong permit, it should have said that. This is not, I can't put these on this boat, right? This is not, I did not permit for this boat. This is the wrong, so understand, if you're gonna give me a ticket for that, I'm gonna have to take that one. But you put it on there anyway, then you put it over there and you left it in the water for 18 days before you came back, and then tried to re-permit or transfer.
The boat was also used during that 18 days on the lake.
It was.
for recreation.
Okay.
But again, I don't think that the intent was not to, he showed up to permit his boat like he knew he had to. He had told the town that he was gonna do that, they were aware of it. I don't think the intent, and again, let me go back to the Class D. And by the way, if this is the definition of pontoon boat, I think that it's a pontoon boat under the definition of his boat. I'm not saying that shouldn't be I'm not saying that there should not be a better definition there, if that's the kind of boat you don't want on the lake, and if that's the case, he accepts that. But, the state of North Carolina said it's a pontoon boat, it's got two pontoons on it. This doesn't say it qualifies under this definition. I haven't said that, there's not a
The
regulatory definition.
His vessel is not metal, it's not aluminum.
Which part of it?
Or hollow metal cylinders. No, they're fiberglass. The whole entire bottom of his boat is foam-filled fiberglass. The tunes on his boat, the things that represent tunes, are only about 5 feet long, and then it transitions into another bottom at the backside of the boat.
Well, and again, what I would say to that, thank you for that, because I have an old pontoon boat, that's all I know about boats. But what I will say though is, again, two different issues. If that boat doesn't meet the definition, we're
All right,
trying to argue.
we got it. Greg? No,
No, that's all right.
I don't think anybody here thinks that you were trying to be malicious and unintentful, but you did take the boat out. You did put it over there, you did drive it around. You didn't leave it parked, or you knew that we were in this process. You knew these processes, and you had a permit on a boat that was not the right permit. So, and you drove it around. I think, and I just think that, Commissioner Diorio has a solution.
I always have a solution. So Greg, I understand, okay, I really do. And so I don't think it was malicious. I think that you were caught in, a variety of things. So I'm willing to come up with a secondary proposal. The Class D, just so you know, also comes kind of with, at our discretion, but it comes with a stipulation of revoking your access permanently, which I personally don't really want to go after. So, but it was clear to me that you operated without a valid permit. And so that's a Class C, that carries a fine of $250 under Article 4.01 alpha. And also, the thing that I'm gonna come back to in a little bit is operation of a prohibited vessel on Lake Lure, which we consider that hull, that deck-shaped hull in particular, at that length, those are the hulls that are creating the biggest problem. That's why a pontoon with a round cylinder can go up to 28 feet, but when you're with a V-hull and a V-drive, with all that energy going in the water and the hull friction, that's what creates the biggest damage. So I'm gonna classify that as a prohibited vessel. That's another Class C of 250, but there's no, so it would be a transfer of get rid of the Class D, 2 Class Cs in those 2 categories, a fine of $500, but also a prohibition of permitting that boat on Lake Lure, unfortunately. So, but you still have all the access to your slip and to another boat as you carry forward. And that would be my solution.
Patrick, or
I do not have any.
Scott, anything else you want to add
Nope,
to that?
I'm good. That's it. That's, we're done.
Yeah, I would, again, being new to this process and trying to help out my friend here. You say 2 Class Cs, one for the
Yeah, one under section 4.01, operating without a permit, and section 4.03, which is operation of a prohibited vessel on Lake Lure.
the only thing that I'm concerned about is if there is further way, my concern is that, what he's in the position of doing is have to sell his boat, obviously. There is but what we were concerned about with the Class D was that very thing, which
Yeah.
is, this is a heck of a situation for
Right,
somebody
right,
that has
right,
been
right.
this
I
kind of
agree, and
citizen.
Paul, I
And
agree.
thank y'all for that.
I
Thank
agree,
y'all for
I
that.
agree completely with that.
Is there a possibility of looking at this boat situation further, obviously in the normal part of the process? Because I think, it was indicated yesterday, hey, if you pay the fine, then we can take a look at whether is that the final say on the boat?
I think we-
That's what I'm trying to
That's
say.
not what I said to him.
Okay,
I told him before he could permit anything else, he needed to pay the citation.
okay,
He offered to pay the citation until I told him how much it was. But I also told him that boat, I would not permit that boat because that boat is a deck boat. Now, he may come to this board and talk to them, but that's what went down.
okay.
I didn't give any false hope.
No, and I'm not trying to say you did. I'm not trying to say you did. As a matter of fact, he told me how civil the conversation was. And I bet it's not always that way with some folks, but
Just, the fine was the first step before we can talk about.
it's just the adjudication of the
Yes.
boat, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
That's it.
All right, and is there an appeal process from that? And I'm just asking that question.
There would be no one to appeal to, Paul.
Right,
That's the problem. I mean,
that's what I was-
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I
But
wanted to
he-
get at.
let me explain again why this is. We've done extensive research on the hull designs and the amount of energy that gets put in the water.
Yeah.
And the one that's closest to this are the Lake Lure tour boats, which have that flat bottom, and we regulate the heck out of those at slow speeds because of that. And we don't,
But they have an inboard outboard.
yeah, right.
Mine isn't outboard, you're aware of that?
Yes, but the energy from the hull going in the water is very similar, and that's a problem. So we're not inclined to approve that boat, because that's gonna open that whole class of boats. Granted, we can go and clarify that based on your point. That doesn't help you, but we can certainly refer that to the Lake Advisory Board for clarification on the definition so that we don't run into it again. But it's my feeling, and I would ask the Marine Commission to consider, that is exactly the type of boat that we don't wanna have on the lake.
The lake regulations say that the state definition is the final say.
Where does it say?
Yeah, there is something to say in that, but what I will say, and Greg and I will talk about this later. I think what we have is a situation where you guys are not gonna approve that vote, and that's something that he's got to deal with. But the second part of that is going back to some last thing I'm gonna ask of you guys, unless Greg says otherwise. Would you consider the fact, because I know you know that he wasn't trying to skirt the system. I will tell you that I also think you said operate an illegal boat on the lake, which is. the other
Prohibited
term.
boat.
Prohibited boat. I think it's gonna take a moment for that to sink in, that this is a prohibited boat under you guys' definition. I don't think he knew that at that point in time, because he literally had the state say, let me do some research. Would you consider waiving that fine?
Well, first of all, that was after the fact, right? So, and it was classified as an open originally, which is the default category for all the boats where doesn't fit the other ones. There's pleasure, there's pontoon.
Well, and the Razor boats have a wakeboard tower on
Yeah.
them too. That's
Yeah.
the specification from the manufacturer, it says wakeboard tower.
Yeah.
And that's where it falls in different classification in the lake regulations.
Right.
Because it, the whole design with fiberglass, but it has a wakeboard tower on it.
You had a point that you wanted to make?
No, I was just asking that question.
Yeah.
as to
I mean,
whether or
that
not-
was one of the reasons why we went back to the original specifications from the manufacturers, so we could adjudicate that.
Okay.
We unfortunately, the town through Corby, by the way, when you transfer a sticker too, you don't use the original sticker.
Yeah.
You turn that one in, you get a whole new sticker. And that's the reason why we do that, is to avoid something like that. But you didn't know that either, and I don't hold you responsible for that. I get all that, and I don't. But I have to make the point, which is that is not the type of boat that we wanna have on the lake, nor do we wanna, and it's not even, it's not even targeted you. We don't wanna open that class of boat on Lake Lure. We just can't do it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have to hold the line with that. But we will reduce the fine, and hopefully in today's market, you can get yourself, a boat that'll suit your needs. needs. You still have access to your slip and all that.
Yeah.
Dean?
So,
Just
yeah.
to add one thing that I think we might be missing here a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the length of your boat. If
Yeah.
your boat was 21 feet or shorter, it wouldn't allow to be put into the
Right,
lake.
right.
It's the
As a
length
vehicle.
that's where we're-
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get it. And the only thing, and thank you for explaining this.
Yeah.
I understand the Vineyards a lot better than I learn something every day here.
Yeah.
But I would just suggest with this pontoon definition, just looking at it as I
Yeah.
look at any other.
That's
regular
well-
building,
yeah, that's well taken.
I would define it. It's tough.
The chairman of the LAB agrees too, and we'll bring that up. And I'll keep you informed as
Yeah.
to what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
with that.
Okay.
But we'll just go. It was unfortunate, and we believe you to be a good citizen. I don't believe it to
There's
be
no-
malintent. But we can't, we gotta maintain the standard. We've worked hard to do that, so that's the final decision. So I move that we dismiss the Class D offense against Mr. Gregory Turner and replace with 2 Class Charlie citations under section 4.01 alpha, which is operation of a motorized vessel on Lake Lure without a permit, and 4.03, which is operation of a prohibited vessel on the lake, carrying a total fine of $500.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Scott?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for explaining. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
All right, that is,
We'll move to item 8 now.
that is the end of our appeals. We will now move on to our new business, and we are very happy to have the Boy Scouts Troop 605 Annual Report. Would someone like to come forward? We're delighted that you're all here.
Thank you for coming.
I just want to first say thank you. I'm Andrew, I'm the Scoutmaster of Troop 605. I've got joining me here Jay, who's our Assistant Scoutmaster, and a couple boys in the back here you'll see.
Okay.
If we get this down.
You guys are working on citizenship in the community merit badge, right? That's why we're coming to this? That's good.
They actually
Sometimes
get
from the
two, they
back,
get
Dana.
communications as well.
And communications as well, gotcha.
Dana, sometimes from the back,
Yeah.
like from behind it sometimes. Sometimes, yeah, just depending,
Had a yellow light turned off when she turned it off.
yeah.
You can never have a meeting without technical
Okay.
difficulties.
Yeah, I guess give it a second. Nope. I saw that flash.
Yeah, I see a green light.
Okay, leave it. Oh, it keeps turning back on.
Hey Dana,
Okay, phone.
Dana, try clicking it one time and see if it's okay.
Oh, see it turned off and on.
Any of you guys in that troop good at IT? You're young enough to be.
We got a screen.
Yeah, we got a screen. Just, do you have anything to put on? Oh. I don't mean now. I mean forever.
It's a brand new machine.
We got plenty of money. That's what my dad.
Okay.
We're taking a 5-minute break.
This is important. Luckily, I think our town council is really.
I think the issue is that you just need to give it time to warm up. So,
I turned it on before the meeting, but
Yeah.
like I said, I warmed it up for it.
yeah.
Perfect, alrighty, cool. Like I said, I'm Andrew, I'm the Scoutmaster of Troop 605. this is the first one of these I've been to. I'm terrible at public speaking, so I apologize about
Oh,
that.
You're doing great.
At least there's no citations.
Not yet.
Let's keep it at that. We got a lot of permits. We've been coming down here to Lake Lure longer than any of us have been alive. Our first scoutmaster, Minor Wilson, had a house down here that was his primary residence. He kind of formed our troop in 1947. When he passed, he left this house and also his shop in Eddyville, which is now our scout hall, to the troop. So ever since then, we've been coming down, teaching boys, life skills, how to grow up, be prepared for things like that. We do have, who was my scoutmaster years ago, Don Henderson. Kind of speak a little bit about the troop. With COVID, everybody's still trying to recover from COVID. We're no different. Our troop has had its ups and downs. I mean, when I was a scout in the troop probably about 10 years ago, we had as many as 25, 30 boys coming down to the lake, all crowding in tents. It's a fun experience as a scout. I'm sure any one of them back there can tell you, the lake's the best part of our troop. It's going out the boat, tubing, skiing, things like that. There's no downside to that. Is this touchscreen?
My name is Don Henderson. I've been a part of Boy Scout Troop 605 for over 60 years. Troop 605 was formed in 1947 by Minor P. Wilson, who was the troop's first scoutmaster. I became the scoutmaster after Minor and served from 1992 until 2011. Minor's the reason we have such a long relationship with Lake Lure. The lake house on Tryon Bay Circle belonged to Minor, and the scouts have been coming to the lake since 1962. Upon Minor's death in 1993, he left the lake house to the troop through the Eddyville Boy Scout Trust, so scouts could continue to enjoy the lake and learning about the outdoors and water sports. Through the years, thousands of scouts have been on the lake learning things like swimming, canoeing, kayaking, fishing, skiing, and motorboat safety. Every summer, Troop 605 has a ski camp where the scouts can earn merit badges for these activities. Lake Lure also gives the scouts an opportunity to learn about and practice outdoor ethics. Here's our outdoor code. Before every ski camp or any other BSA lake outing, the scouts go around the lake in the boat to clean up trash and objects that could be dangerous to boaters, swimmers, or skiers. Scouts are taught to always leave places better than they found them. We've been doing this since 1962. Up until a few years ago, we always went around the outside of the lake too, cleaning up the roadways and pull-offs around the lake. We had to abandon this practice due to increased traffic on 64 and unsafe conditions for the boys. We still do clean up around the Tryon Bay Circle. We've also helped through the years with various town events, service projects, and flag retirements when the town has requested it. We will continue to do our part to keep Lake Lure beautiful and an enjoyable place for water recreation.
So I won't reiterate everything he just said, but as a troop, we've been here for many of decades helping out, and we definitely are going to continue doing that. There's nothing saying we're going anywhere as long as you let us stay. We have recently, I guess I'll wait for that part. This is just the same word, I don't want to stand up here talking the whole time, so we're going to let a few of our boys do the talking. Some of them are joining us tonight, some of them aren't able to be here.
My name is Caleb Martin, and I'm an SPL. One reason I like the lake house is because it gives us the opportunity for us to ski and to lake house because I want to continue going to the lake house. My name is Jonathan. One reason I like the lake house is because I get to bond with friends and have fun. One reason I think we should stay is because we get to learn all these fun activities and we have time to spend with friends. My name is Colton, and one reason I like the lake house is because I get to ski and fish. And one reason I like to stay at the lake house is because I can practice my skills at cooking.
Bet you're popular.
Water activities. And one reason I want to keep the lake house or stay at it is because we've been fixing it up and we've been cleaning it and it's really fun to walk.
So after watching this back again, it makes it seem like y'all are taking our lake house. So
We
I
have
guess-
good news, you can keep the lake house.
I guess on our part, we could have prompted that question a little differently.
I was thinking, we're
Yeah.
not taking.
But we just wanted y'all to see, you know,
They're
when,
definitely passionate,
yes,
and I love that.
yes,
I think
we
it's
definitely
fantastic.
do, you know, our troop is here and Scouts is here as a whole to help young boys and girls and other troops, get those life skills that they need as an adult. So we are here, you know, we are volunteers, to kind of help them teach that, so that's what we're here for.
Well, and I think as a commission here, we all support Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts
ma'am.
both. And so you're a great asset to our community too. We know why you like it here now and want to keep your boathouse. We got that one okay.
We need to talk to
Same
that
reason
cook,
we all
too.
want to keep our boathouses
Yeah, I want to
here.
talk to the cook, yeah.
Yeah, we need to
We
talk
want
to
the
that cook.
cook, yeah.
I think you're back here.
There's some restaurants around here that might need that.
Hey,
I will pass this over now to our Assistant Scoutmaster Jay. He's a little more familiar with the area. He's a resident himself here. So this is Mr. Jay to talk about this.
Thank you.
I'm Jay Martin. Also, like you said, I'm a full-time resident of Lake Lure. And as was mentioned earlier, we used to go in the lake and get things, but because of the drawdown, there was a lot of cleanup in the lake. There really wasn't a lot. And so we were kind of looking to where we could have
Yeah.
impact in the community here. And what we did is we went and searched out some common areas that aren't necessarily, looked after. The groundskeepers for the city do a great job. There's usually no litter anywhere, so we had to go find it, And what we did is we selected 10 locations around, which are primarily, they were the vehicle turnoff areas, or pullouts where people would have, or intersections. For some reason, people like to toss their stuff at intersections. Let's see, the parks, we just did a once-over of the park, because we did it Sunday afternoon. It was after, after everybody had been out for the week. We always do Tryon Bay, and then any kind of city property that we could find that wasn't looked at. And, like we went over by the water tower and picked up on the driveway up there, or by the water processing facility and picked up there. And so we were able to generate 6 bags of trash for 22 pounds, over there and get that. Got just a couple photos of the boys in action. Most of the boys, half the boys in back participated. The other half, with summer just kicking off, they weren't able to come out, so that's why we're bringing them, to you on here. So there's us at the Dittmer Watts Park. The boys are going up in there, just getting a couple things. That area is usually normally pretty clean. We went across the road from from where the water tower access is over there. The water treatment facility. This was over by the curve, by the golf course, the curve over there. A lot of people, you don't see it when you go by, but when you get a couple feet back in the bushes, there's a lot of stuff back there. Another popular turnoff area, right, Tryon Bay. We caught these guys on the side of the road,
Uh-oh.
so we were with some of Lake Lure's finest out there. They got out of their
We
cars.
can take care of that
took photos.
citation.
We walked the park that day. This one was probably one of the worst areas. It's closer to the, but again, it was the end of the weekend and there was beer bottles and things
Yeah.
There's a
everywhere.
lot of traffic there.
Yeah.
A lot of people there.
found a lot of
So,
stuff there.
and of course, we walked the bridge. There was nothing there, but we walked it to double check. So with that,
Thank you for that.
that's what the boys had come up to put together and do that. And, like Andrew said, he won't tell you, but he's been part of that troop for 16 years. He's now the Scoutmaster from coming up. So he's what the troop produces, for our community. So So it's a good honor. I'm a backup for them. You know, I've been with the troop for about 3 years, and I'm involved because my son's involved right now, but these are the people, that, you know, the men that I want my son to be around. So we appreciate your time.
Well, and we appreciate what you bring to the
Yeah.
community.
Yep.
We do.
Very much.
Gentlemen, we
Thank you
commend
very
your
much.
service. Thank you for everything you do.
Yes, thank you.
Get your guys to stand up back there so everybody can see.
Yeah. Stand up.
You guys stand up. Y'all were laughing at
There we
your,
go.
We want
hey,
your cup.
y'all were laughing at your buddies on the screen.
We need a motion
Yeah.
to vote on this.
I have one comment too.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Great presentation. I would ask, we do a lot of trail maintenance, Parks and Rec does too. For your Eagles service projects, keep us in mind, may want to check with you guys, with Dana up front here to see if there's something that she has wanted to do and couldn't get to. And keep us in mind for that, and we may get you pointed in the right direction. Because I know it's always, you know, trying to get a good Eagle service project is always kind of tough. But we appreciate the cleanup, and it's all great work. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to continue the tradition of issuing 2 complimentary motorized boat permits and 2 complimentary non-motorized boat permits to Boy Scout Troop 605 for their dedicated and complete service to the town of Lake Lure.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Wholehearted.
we are delighted to approve those permits.
Thank
And it is
you.
we
That's right.
who- Yes.
Thank you,
definitely.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you get the boating license.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And you get to keep your house too, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, we are gonna move on then to the last item on our agenda, and that is, the Lodge on Lake Lure. And Mike, are you
Oh, Dean, I think.
Dean?
Yeah, this would be Dean.
Dean, I'm sorry.
Somebody here from the lodge?
No.
I don't think so.
Anyone here from the Lodge on Lake Lure?
Yeah.
Perhaps not.
As long as it follows.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Follows
It's not very small.
You're gonna trade one VR for.
Okay.
Mhm.
Basically, the lodge on Lake Lure has, has new owners. They've been working on redoing their docks. They built a new boathouse and stuff, and now they're wanting to upgrade their business. They've given it to you here in a business plan that you have. Right now, currently, there is no room in the model for a tour boat. However, there is extra room in the model for vacation rentals. So if it pleases the board, my recommendation would be to take a vacation rental hours away from the vacation rental model and move it over to encompass a tour boat for the Lodge on Lake Lure, to allow them to get their business model here up and running.
So this
And
would
so
be
is
a,
that a permanent move?
Would this, well, yeah.
so they'll get
It'll
a,
be permanent.
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 Permit, yeah. Would we do a Lake Advisory Board concession agreement sort of thing?
They have to,
Yeah.
by
Okay.
regulation,
Yeah.
with a
So you-
tour boat.
Yeah,
so
okay.
you get a concession agreement, and then next year, they'll apply for a commercial permit
Yeah,
Yep.
Yes.
because they were just late getting their setup going because of their,
yeah. Being new.
Which is
Situation.
understandable.
Correct.
which is completely.
Yeah, this is good for Lake Lure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, the lake
And-
model use work.
And like Patrick alluded to, yes, they are all, shoot, I've lost my train of thought. I bet y'all never do that. All tour boats, according to the lake use regulations, are required to be under a concession agreement with the
Right.
town,
Yeah.
which is it's the same for every one of them.
Absolutely.
And they're looking to hire a couple new people too, which is good for the business
It
community.
is.
so.
Yeah.
It is.
And I'm sure they're gonna be asking for some non-motorized stuff also, but that's
Down the road.
That's not an
easy.
issue.
Yeah, that's
That's
easy.
easy, yeah.
It's not an issue, it's just this one here, and with y'all's approval, then
So I'll make a motion to approve the Lodge on Lake Lure's request for a tour boat permit and adjusting of hours in the vacation rental category to make room for one tour boat.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we approve their request.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean, very much.
Thanks, Dean.
And that actually is the last item on our agenda. We appreciate so much your being here and participating with us. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. And we're a little, ran over a little bit, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break, okay, before we start the town council meeting.
There's some goodies, I'm hungry.
I think.